the one that's coming up the earliest, right? So I have a stack of flyers here for everyone to take. So you're more than welcome to take as many as you want, pero para empezar tenemos aquí the flyer for the reading that we're doing in commemoration of Fabiola. The Chicano Resource Center will be available to us on February 27th. That's a Thursday. That's next Thursday. From 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. we'll be here. I'm going to do it open mic style. So anybody that wants to come and sign up to read or to say some words about Fabiola and her contributions to Conchas y Café, to the community in general, everyone will have a chance to say a few words. Pueden traer comida si gustan, pero como la biblioteca se cierra a las 9, sí pido que traigan cosas que sean muy fácil para recoger, limpiar aquí. We don't want to leave too much of a mess for the staff here. The reading itself will probably be for about an hour. I want to give us that half hour, that last half hour, to just kind of, hang out, be together, share in what we knew about Fabiola. And I will be bringing all the past issues of the Conchas y Café Zine. So if anybody wants to read Fabiola's work, you didn't get a chance to write something for her, you can also read from past issues of Conchas y Café Zine. We have 5 years worth of issues. So and Fabiola was in every single one up until our newest issue. So she definitely did contribute a lot to our community. The next event after that is the release party for our Comics que Curan comic book anthology. This is on the 29th, Saturday, February 29th at the Vernon Branch Library. This one is happening at 2 p.m. and we'll be unveiling the winners of the cover design contest. All the students who were part of this got to also design a cover for the anthology itself, and also everyone that's printed in this is also getting their artwork published and printed in a zine, in a magazine that's going to be distributed across LA County. Yes, sir.
So the winners of the cover are going to get a huge check?
No, not the huge check treatment, but they'll get a check. But the part that's,
Just do the perspective thing we put in front of us.
Right, exactly. We'll do a little faux pas thing. But the other thing too is that all of the work is going to be put up also on the bus shelter that's located on the corner of Central Avenue and 43rd Street. So it's like 2 blocks from the library, block and a half from the library where the workshops happened. I went to go check out that spot today with the people that manage the bus shelter, and it's definitely going to be a pretty cool installation. Yeah. Everyone's going to have at least one page of their comic on display. Abraham and Javier, the master teaching artists of these workshops, will also have their artwork on display too. And all of the participants will get to be a part of a little panel discussion, so you guys can come ask them questions about what it was like to be, taught by these master teachers, and to have their work published in an anthology of comics. So again, that's Saturday, February 29th at 2 p.m. at the Vernon Branch Library. Then, after that, we also have an amazing poetess up in the room here, Miss Caro Ska. Let's give her a big round of applause. Her debut chapbook, Gathering Grandmother's Bones, is now available. You can pre-order it now for $10 on the Distill Arts website, and you can bring it with you. Yes, she's got a copy in person. And you can bring it with you to the official release party. On February 29th, the the pre-orders will end and the full retail price will take effect. That's like the official release date, February 29th. So it's still officially being released on Leap Day. But the book release party will happen on Friday, March 6th at Avenue 50 Studio. It's going to be at 7 p.m. and Caro's got a lineup of poets that are also incredible poets, people that are going to be sharing the stage with her as she presents new work from the chapbook. Definitely take a flyer, invite a friend. It's free to attend. Make sure you get her autograph because she's gonna go places, people. She really is. So yeah, a lot of big celebrations. The following day, on Saturday, March 7th, the Comics que Curan workshops return. So Abraham and Javier will be teaching how to create your own comic again. This time it's open to anybody ages 14 and older, where the last time it was only for youth ages 16 to 25. This time it's for everybody. So you guys are more than welcome to come and join us for 9 weeks this time. Abraham and Javier will be teaching how to write and draw a 2-page comic that will also get published in an anthology, and will also have your artwork actually featured on the bus shelter across the street from the Benjamin Franklin Branch Library this time. So you guys are welcome to join us in Boyle Heights at the Ben Franklin Branch Library beginning Saturday, March 7th at 11 a.m. For 9 Saturdays in a row. Space is limited though, so definitely let me know if you're gonna come, if you're gonna participate. I do ask that you guys RSVP for this one. And then lastly, the Poet Artist in Residence program is halfway through, and our resident poet artist from Techno Latinx, Helene Philippe, she goes by Honeymoon Supply on Instagram, and she has created her own planet in virtual reality, and she's exhibiting it along with some sculptures that she created. That's all going to be on display in a gallery space in downtown LA. There's a $5 cover charge for this one, and it'll be taking place on Saturday, March 7th at 7 p.m. The address is right here. She's calling it the Honeymoon Galleria installation. It's taking place at 400 East 12th Street. Haven't been there to that space yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be pretty cool. You guys will get a chance to also experience the VR environment that she created. So Techno Latinx is going to be there. They're going to be teaching people how to use virtual reality equipment. And it'll be a really cool experience to see this talented young artist and her imagination actually in an environment that you can interact with. So make sure you take one of every single one of the flyers. Tell a friend, bring family. Everything is going to be amazing. So, any questions? I felt like I just gave a lot of information. That actually tired me out. But yeah, please make sure you take one of the flyers for everything that's coming up. And then don't forget to sign in. The sign-in sheet is right there. So, on to our lesson for today. First, I wanted to ask, how did everyone's macro poem exercise go from last week? Those of you that were here. Yeah. You know, in preparing for all of the lessons with our theme being the human journey, it's actually been really hard. This week was kind of hard for me to come up with a lesson for you guys because, you know, I challenged myself to create a new poem every week for you. So that in itself, given all the stuff that you can see is happening right now, was kind of hard for me to find time to create the poem. But also to just think about, well, you know, what are the poetic practices that I'm going to teach you guys? You know, the human journey as our theme there's so many different ways that we can interpret that. And you know, with the macro poem being something that I had done 10 years ago now, over 10 years ago, you know, it was I think a good sort of place for us to think about, you know, our interactions with humanity, our place in history, you know, the way that it all informs our artwork. And this week I was partially thinking about, well, you know, what are the things that inform my personal history? What are the things that are important for me and kind of building on the macro poem idea. So I did write a poem. Caro gave me some feedback on it over the weekend, and I'm honestly a little nervous to share it with you guys because I still don't feel like it's ready. It's not a complete poem for me personally. Pero a ver qué opinan ustedes, ¿verdad? Como siempre les he dicho, simplemente porque yo soy el maestro no quiere decir que soy maestro de la poesía. I just know stuff and I try to share it. So any feedback that you guys have for my poem right now, that's a part of this journey, right? That's a part of what it means to be a poet, what it means to be an artist. Because none of us, in my opinion, are ever 100% masters of anything. Which is why when I saw this quote, I was like, yeah, exactly. This quote right here comes to us from Agnes de Mille. Agnes de Mille was an American dancer and choreographer. She lived mostly in New York, almost all her entire life. Obviously, as a dancer and choreographer, probably traveled the world, but definitely was around during some pretty big movements, we'll say, in art, contemporary art history. She was born on September 18th in 1905, and she passed away on October 7th in 1993. And she wrote, or she is quoted as saying, "The artist never entirely knows. We guess. We may be wrong, but we take leap after leap in the dark." And I translated it more or less to say, "El artista nunca sabe por completo. Adivinamos. Quizás seamos errados, pero saltamos y saltamos entre la oscuridad." What do you guys think? ¿Cómo les parece nuestra cita de la semana? No?
I think I resonate with this as I was writing my assignments.
Yeah.
Because at the same time I understood the concept of macro, but I didn't know whether these large scale events that I wrote about were really affecting me the way I wrote that it did.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there were so many other things that did greater impact on me, but I was still like figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Or I didn't really understand how big of these events have affected me yet, because I have yet to break them down. So it's like there's meaning there, but I don't know why it's so important.
Mm-hmm. I completely resonate with that. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, right? Like, it's been a challenge for me to think about what I wanted to teach this week with you guys. Because, like I said, I'm challenging myself to write a new poem for you. So what I brought you is a completely new poem, and as I was writing it, I was struggling to find the meaning behind it. What was I really trying to say? So we'll talk about that. But that's part of our process, no? It's part of what it means to be an artist. Adivinamos. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Karen?
Well, one, I couldn't read the little thing on the bottom, but knowing that she's a dancer actually makes this, like, now I picture the quote a lot differently, like literal leaps, like you don't need to take it right. But I think the other thing that I like is just the fact that you can kind of absorb this very free. Like, you can know that, like, we never really fully get it right.
Yeah.
We never really, but I think that kind of frees you up to go, like, okay, I'm just going to play around. Like, I don't have to get it right. We never get it right.
Right.
So I think that can be really great and creative.
Yeah.
I think the thing about writing poetry is you want to be able to take those risks, because sometimes they pay off, and sometimes a lot of times they don't, but sometimes they do. And I think it's also, it made me think that it's okay to make mistakes. I feel like a lot of times we're pushed to be really perfect, and mistakes are sort of shamed, but it's we all make them, and that's just kind of part, we learn from them. So we shouldn't be critical when we don't, when we write or we create doesn't come out exactly the way it was pictured in our head. So.
Well, I guess it's a combination of both. I was going to say that it speaks about having courage to keep, I don't know if she was a dancer, she said that, leaping, keep moving, keep going up.
Mhm.
And you come back down, but you get back up again. But the courage in doing this even in the dark. We as writers, we sometimes that you just let the pen and your hands move and write words, and you're half thinking, and most of the time I'm not, and they're just coming out. Just letting yourself be free and having the courage to write it down.
Yeah, for sure. Radu and then Mr.
I was thinking about if I were to think of an antagonistic to the artist would be a scientist or someone who depends on not guessing or not being wrong. They don't feel comfortable with when formulas and stuff don't match up, right? But as artists, you enjoy that, or not feel as or feel comfortable in not knowing or having a different result than what the formula was supposed to produce.
Yeah, language is fluid, right? Language is forever changing. Everything has its own subtle meaning, and that nuance can make it so that we don't always come up with the same thing every time. It's not a formula. Every poem is not a formula, and I think it's good for us to remember that. It's very important that we are kind to ourselves through that process, and that we're okay with making mistakes, or maybe not seeing a mistake as a mistake, but seeing it as just an opportunity for a different story that you can always go back and change. So yeah, I like that. Ms. Luz?
For me, this is about a leap of faith, one I take every day. With my inside meditation, it's like people ask me, well, what do you do when you're sitting in silence meditating? And you don't really do anything. You wait, you see, you observe, you pay attention. And it is in the complete darkness. So you have no real expectations, because you don't know what is going to come up. So just like the artists also, you don't know what creative juices are brewing when you're there. But I think the knowledge that something will come up is, I guess, what keeps you going, or interested, or working. So it's my
Like
take.
a trust in the process.
It kind of reminds me of, I was listening to comedians, when they start doing their gigs and stuff, they don't go to the big stages, they go to like small venues, like open mic, kind of like for comedians. And that's where they unleash the new jokes to see if they hit, because again, they don't know how people's gonna react to their work until they have an audience, an actual audience, and see how the actual performance goes. So every artist has to go through that process.
Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts on this side?
The same with bands. When it's a new band, they go to small venues, and the same thing.
Definitely.
Last night I was watching Purple Rain, the movie with Prince. Yeah, exactly. Purple Rain. And the song stuck in my head.
I know.
Not a bad song to have something.
Not a bad one, no, for sure. But I was paying attention to the movie a little bit more closely, and that's actually one of those things that the movie was kind of trying to show. I don't think it's like a central part of the movie, but Prince is kind of threatened by the fact that his band might not continue to perform because his songs are not really playing to the audience that's coming, and so there's that growth where at the very end, the song Purple Rain, he ends up releasing and accepting that his bandmates actually wrote a really good song that he then interprets and performs. And that's what gets people to really love the band at the very end, or at least solidifies their love for the band. So if you watch the movie and you think about that artist process, right? That artistic journey. Like, it is sometimes saying, you know what, I do have to take that leap of faith. I do have to just jump in the dark and hope that I do land okay. Because that's a part of our journey as artists. It's part of that releasing and saying, yeah, I trust my instinct as a writer. I trust my instinct as an artist enough to at least put myself out there. You know? I think that's valuable. And part of, I think, what also is important in the creative process is that vulnerability that we allow it to, that we allow ourselves to experience, right? And so, even this morning when I was printing out the poem to share with you guys, I was still really insecure, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to share it, because it just felt incomplete to me. But, you know, I was realizing as I was reading it and I was stapling the paper, you know, part of the reason why I feel this vulnerability with you and I feel comfortable enough to share the poem with you is because the poem is at least trying to get at something about me as a person, about my personal journey in context to everything around me, to my story. So really just building on the same lesson from last week, right? Last week we talked about this concept that I had learned when I was in middle school. And it's a concept that still very much resonates with me today. It was this one. The idea of continuity and change, right? That was what we talked about a bit last week. You know, we talked about how in history we see things always, you know, with the advantage, right, of being able to look back at things and see things from different points of view. And we can then see how those events might impact the current events, you know. And there's these things too that I think are in our own personal lives. So as I wrote this poem, and as I was editing the poem, I was sort of reflecting a little bit on this. You guys don't mind, just take one and pass them back. Get one to Roque over there. You guys take one and pass it over there. Now, human history is all about migration, ultimately, right? That was one of the themes that when I was asking for you guys, like, what do you want to write about? It was one of the themes that came up, migration and asylum. And so, this poem wasn't really originally meant to be about that, not so much, but as I was reflecting on my experience and, you know, what it means to just simply move and movement, you know, this is kind of how this poem ended up sort of going. So, and another thing too, last week's poem was a poem in 5 movements. This week's poem is a poem in 4 movements. So there's something going on here right now with my personal writing that you guys are welcome to explore as well. Movements. Yeah. So, you know, last week's poem, it had a movement number 1. That's where the Roman numeral is meant to imply, right? Movement 1, movement 2. So the same thing is happening in this poem. Would somebody like to read it on my behalf, or do you guys want to hear me read it? I don't mind if somebody else reads it.
You know mine.
Karen, go for it.
1. Pigeon, twisted neck, underpass. 6th Street, 110 freeway. Gold dandelion fighting behind brown feathers blowing in the herbs. Campfire. Drag pressing into soil and asphalt with grains of McDonald's. The red and yellow complementary is nothing. And you. And you. And you. And Pigeon necking child carries out laying the back, seated moth straight, red, tracking the circumference of the moon. A question forms wings. Why does it follow us wherever we go? She replies, it's because of the way the tires look. With you. You. Like, great. Pigeons and doves. A distinction not consistent in English and non-existent in other languages. Dove. A little annoying. Pigeon. Bigger, fatter, brown, and red. Feral in the city. The nest. Flimsy. Using debris to claim steak and some ground like you. Like you. Like you. Like. 4. Uh-oh. Sorry, I didn't say this right. Dos kilometers al volar. One lands finding un Palomar calling towards home. South. 1, the second generation, flies north towards the Ovidio of the moon, crashing.
Los dos buscando nuevo nido.
Well,
Still made.
Of sticks and rocks. A cracked asphalt haven that couldn't care less about you. About you. About you. About you.
Thank you, Karen. So, I guess this is a little awkward, but what do you guys think?
I'm having a hard time following.
Having a hard time following? It's part of the journey, right? Yeah, like I said. Monday?
It's challenging.
It's a challenging poem. What makes it challenging?
Having not being able to follow.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Maybe I have a little distraction.
And so he laughs as you say that. That's good.
It deserves a read through, so that's what I'm doing, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
And I can relate to a lot of stuff. It is, and a whole lot. But for now,
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, ma'am?
To me, it's like questioning like what's not there. Like I feel like the speaker of the poem is like, it's very in the moment, but there's something that the speaker's thinking about, and because they see this person, this you, in everything that they see, whether it's like the beautiful and then the mundane too, like the red and yellow complementary cups of McDonald's. You see you in them, in the nest of the pigeons, like trying to get into like what is, like who is that you, or if that's even yourself, you as a society. So, I mean, I like it a lot, and I get what Jennifer's saying. It's difficult to follow a little bit because it is, to me, it's like high poetry, like pretty, kind of like everything that you taught us in the lessons. I feel like it's coming back through here.
Yes, brother?
Related to the title, continuity and change. So for me, the idea of pigeon is like the continuity in every parts about the pigeon, and then the change is that you take the pigeon and you put in different
Context.
aspects, different contexts.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that I was deliberately doing, right? I was trying to create a continuity across the poem by talking about pigeons, right? Using pigeons as a metaphor for something, right? And the change part was definitely trying to reimagine the pigeon or use the pigeon in a different way in each movement. That's why I think the poem, at least for me so far, works to do it in movements, because in poetry, when you do a poem in movements, each movement can stand on its own as if it's its own poem, but then because they're so related to each other, they can be put together so that you can see some sort of continuity, right, throughout the whole thing. So that's
Like you go by parts, and then the metaphor between the pigeons and the doves. I really like that. That was your goal. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Caro was there when I was writing the poem, and I told her, that I got stuck. After the second movement, I got stuck, and I was like, I think I need to actually research Pigeon a little bit. So I actually got online, and everything that I wrote down is basically what I found in my very quick 5-minute research. In the English language, the difference between a pigeon and a dove is very inconsistent. So, people use it almost interchangeably, but technically there is no such thing as a dove. It's just a pigeon. All other languages in the world do not have that inconsistency. That made me think about the word paloma or palomo in Spanish, right? Una paloma es una paloma. That's it. There's no difference between a white paloma and a brown or gray paloma. It's still una paloma. Whereas in English, right, there's a distinction. A dove is white. A dove symbolizes peace. A dove symbolizes purity. Whereas a pigeon, what do you think of when you think of a pigeon?
City rat with wings.
Rat with wings. Disease. Suciedad, la ciudad.
Isn't there a pigeon?
Like all of these different things. And then when you really think about a pigeon, what do you think of? You think of the colors too, right? Think of the gray pigeon, or you think of a brown pigeon, right? Either way, you're thinking of algo sucio. And in the context of a city, in the context of where we live, even in the United States, I saw that as a very clear metaphor for how we are viewed. So that particular movement, it is, I think, one of the stronger ones because it's the one that's the most obvious in terms of metaphor. So.
I like where you took those. I like the fourth movement. I feel like it does tie it together for me. What does ombligo mean?
Ombligo is the belly button. Belly button of the man.
But all the imagery in here is really great. I feel like it's one of those poems that it's hard to put into words exactly what it's trying to say because it's saying what it's saying in the poem. So it's trying to use other words to describe it. You can't really do that. So I guess it's gonna, the poem says what it's saying, and you can't really all the time verbalize what the poem is trying to say. But I like the whole metaphor for the pigeon and as you were saying, for us, migration and all that is, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, the first time I heard the term Pigeon was here in the U.S. I guess there's the Spanglish part, but you're right. It was just Paloma. But I like the second one because you're playing the curious kid, and I could just imagine that kid just kids using the bus or something, or just little pigeons curious looking around. And then since you mentioned that after the second one you got stuck and then you did some research, maybe that's why kind of after that one you went back to just the pigeon, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, the physical.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, and then the way that you're ending each one, I guess that's another connection of making it as one.
Yeah.
Because you're ending N-U-N-U-N. You probably could have ended instead of just ended in U, but when you just leave it at and, it kind of it feels, at least for me, a feeling of okay, next. Kind of how we probably see pigeons are just creatures passing by. But at the end when you just finish with N and with about, it kind of takes away that focus about the U.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was for any reason specific.
I think you used it like a comma. Is what you just said?
In
To,
a
like,
way.
say continue
It's kind of like a way to say, this thought is continuing. The thought
to the
is,
next, yeah.
so it's up to you how you want to connect it. So that was kind of a conscious thing. Mom?
I agree with Carlo. I really like the fourth movement.
Yeah.
I think that, to me, that's like next to the third one, it's the strongest one, because I think that to me speaks most to the title of the poem, the immigration.
Mhm.
Especially how you have like the two palomas of different generations.
Mhm.
One flying, looking for a new, Nilo's nest. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a new nest. I mean, that like, speaks volumes for second generation, children that want to make their own nest, even if it is of the same materials that their parents did.
Mhm.
At least it's something that they do. I think that's really powerful, that fourth one to me, that imagery.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily feel like I have a whole lot to teach you guys today. These are just like techniques that I've picked up, techniques that I use in my poetry, and I kind of hope that maybe just showing you my techniques, my thought process in an unfinished poem might hopefully inspire you in thinking about your poetry. Do you have your hand up, Jeremy?
Oh, no.
Okay. So I don't know. I like I said, I really don't have like a full lesson for you other than to say, your story and the way that you come about telling your story through your poetry is going to be unique to you. And it's okay to not know where it's going. I had to remind myself that in the process of coming up with this lesson. I had to remind myself that I don't have all of the answers. I may be the person leading the workshop, but I'm not the person that's going to say, you're doing your poetry the wrong way. So, I'll read the poem for you guys one more time if you want to hear it read one more time. And if you have any other last things to add to it, you're more than welcome to. But I felt like it was probably best for us to use the rest of the time after I read it for us to really share what you have. We can all workshop together, right? This theme is the human journey. Let's actually experience it together. And the way that I'm sharing a rough poem with you, I'd like all of us, if you feel comfortable to share, and you brought something, to share it, and we can try to help each other out. So yeah, I'll read it one more time, and then we'll break for that.
Before you read it, I like the title. I like the play on words, immigration.
Yeah.
I'm migration.
I'm migration. Yeah. So that's also, afterwards, after I finished it, I was like, what is the poem really about? And it's about me, and it's about this idea of movement. Because I took migration just to mean simply movement. Right? I'm migration. Movement 1. Pigeon, twisted neck, underpass, 6th Street, 110 freeway. Gold dandelion, fighting behind brown feathers, blowing in reverse. Anti-lift. Drag pressing into soil an asphalt of grains and McDonald's cups, the red and yellow complementary to nothing and you, and you, and you, and. Movement 2. Pigeon necking child stares out, laying in the back seat of mom's prelude, red. Tracking the circumference of the moon, a question. Forms wings, why? Does it follow us wherever we go? She replies, it's because of the way the tires roll. With you, with you, with you, with. Movement 3. Pigeons and doves, a distinction not consistent in English and non-existent in other languages. Dove, the little and white. Pigeon, bigger, fatter, brown and gray, feral in most cities. The nest, flimsy, using debris to claim stake in some ground, like you, like you, like you, like. Movement 4. Los palomos al volar, one lands finding, un palomar calling toward home, south. One, the second generation, flies north toward the ombligo of the moon, crashing. Los dos buscando nuevo nido, still made of sticks and rocks. A cracked asphalt haven that couldn't care less about you, about you, about you, about.
I like how you read it. I guess because when you read your own stuff, I guess in your head you know where the pauses are. And yeah, but were you referring to the ombligo of the moon? Is that like in reference to the Aztec story? Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
It's like one example.
Mhm.
Okay. I guess this the second time around
Mhm.
it does. I guess it made more sense in my head.
Mhm. Yeah.
My head doesn't work, but so don't.
No, and that's fine. I mean, one of the things that for the fourth movement, when I came back to the poem, because I stopped after the third, and then I was like, I can't think anymore. I need to move on. And I revisited that poem yesterday night, and so when I was working on the fourth movement, I was really thinking about, well, how am I going to tie in that idea of the macro poem again? Where I'm thinking about history and my family's history. And so el ombligo del sol is actually, I think, the term that was used for the people, Chichimecas, the people of Aztlán, going to Teotihuacan, Tenochtitlan, and finding their home, what became the Aztec Empire, the center of the Aztec Empire. So they called it el ombligo del sol, if I remember correctly. So that's like a very subtle way of incorporating in the second movement, where, that's actually a memory of mine, where I was a little boy and I was in the backseat of my mom's Prelude, staring out the window, kind of craning my neck, looking out the window, looking up to the sky and watching the moon follow us. And I remember asking my mom the question, well, why does the moon follow us? Why doesn't it change? She didn't know how to answer, so she told me, well, it's because of the way the tires move. And I didn't know what that meant, She just kind of came up with something off the top of her head. And I think I shared with Caro, and I've written that memory a lot. There's something to that particular memory that is somehow significant in my subconscious. Because it's like the third or fourth poem that I've written over my lifetime now, where that's come up again, So, that fourth movement, I tried to wrap it all up. I tried to connect everything little by little. So my heritage, how my dad came here, how I, in my own way, try to go back, trying to find my own place, my own way in the world. And a place that ultimately doesn't really care, right? Doesn't really care about us. So, doesn't care about me. Well, you do, but yeah. So it's just trying to be political without being political.
If there's such a thing.
If there is such a thing. Because I'm also very convinced that, as artists of color, as people that are from marginalized communities, historically marginalized communities, no matter what we do, we're always going to be put in this place where our work is always going to be seen as some sort of political act, some sort of political thing.
In your face offensive to you.
Perhaps, or maybe it doesn't have to be in your face offensive, but
might
people
be
will always
interpreted.
put that on it,
Yeah.
Because I'm a writer of color talking about dead pigeon under an underpass, in downtown LA. And I'm a writer of color talking about, the difference between a dove and a pigeon in English, where that difference doesn't exist in any other language. You know? And I'm talking about trying to find a place in a space in a world that doesn't care about me. So, you know, it's ultimately where the poem is kind of trying to go, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm still insecure about it. I don't know if it does that effectively without me having to explain it. So I appreciate your guys'
Maybe
feedback.
that's where we improve it. How do we improve it so people understand it more easily? I mean, now when you explain everything and I read it, I say, oh. But something about the first time, it was probably like other pieces of literature, or you have to go over it and study it.
Yeah.
But now that you explain, I'm like, oh, it's making more sense. And like in all of our writing, when we are trying to improve it, how can I make it easier for the reader to understand? Because that's, at the same time, that's the challenge, is that only us expressing ourselves for our own satisfaction and letting ourselves be free, or do we also want the reader to understand and enjoy it, you know? That's, I think, the other challenge, the next step of our...
Yeah, that's the next part of our journey.
Yeah.
Mauricio and Ms. Luz.
I think that was the one thing that I was confused about. That now you explain, now I can see, like, what you mean, like the place that doesn't care about you, but I think that was a little unclear. So, I mean, I think that would be the one piece of advice. Maybe even, you know, identify what the you is. Is you a country, a place, is it a person? Is it idealized person or idealized place?
Yeah. Ms. Luz, and then Gustavo.
Yeah, initially not understanding some of the imagery or the metaphors, but definitely picking up on just melancholy, a sense of longing for home. And one part in particular where the Palomar calling towards home, south, that made me think of my parents, especially my dad. At one point in my lifetime, he decided, no, we're going back to Guatemala. It was like, no, we're going back. And he shipped us back. My brother's one place, and my other brother another, me in another. We were just going back, and no matter what, because he didn't want to be here anymore. And it's like, yeah, you just don't feel like you really have a home. It's like, there's the old home that you long for because it's everything you're connected to, your roots. And then there's this effing place that you feel so disconnected. So, yeah, it made me sad.
So it's like you, about you?
What?
Because that's what he did throughout the whole poem. He goes back to like the pigeon, it's me, like me, about me, like that. That's the ending of each one. It's the only thing that I noticed is like the numbers. How do you like read them when you're going through the? You skip the numbers, or you say the number, or you say the number plus what was it?
Well, the way that I read it is I say, I announce it, right? Movement 1.
So would you
2.
recommend put movement instead of just number? So if somebody just reads it, it doesn't hear like, oh, just 5 or 4, 3.
That's a good question. I don't really have an answer.
Because I
to
remember
that.
she read it that way, 3, 2, 1. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen poems that do say movimiento or movement, and I've seen some that just do what I did, just the number.
What is a movement? I'm sorry.
Back to that.
Think like in music, there's movements in music where the beat pattern, the way that the song plays in one section might sound one way, then it stops and transitions into a completely different with some of the same tones from the previous one.
And the idea is still related, or it's different? Okay.
Yeah,
Just
so
a different-
thematically there's a theme that travels throughout the entire piece of music, just like there was a kind of theme that was traveling throughout the entire poem. But because it's different enough, it can stand on its own as a movement, but related enough to keep them together.
I was going to say, like Romeo and Juliet, like has a prelude and overture. It has different parts. It's the same, theme, like Romeo and Juliet, but there's different parts of it. Like you said, there's just different instruments maybe come into play, or it's just different, but still part of like this huge overarching theme.
Are they kind of like chapters too, like in a book?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in that book?
Just trying to think how I can incorporate it in my poem, you know, because I think it would just be like another paragraph or something.
I feel like I've seen movement a lot, especially if like the tone changes. Like if say the first movement is something that is like very like, strong, and then maybe the second one is maybe a little bit lighter. I think the same works in music too. If you want to say something different by not changing the subject, you change how you're saying it, the tone of it.
And is there a limit or as to how many movements in a piece? Just if you have two, you can. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if it's 2, it's because they're kind of like having dialogue with one another. If it's 3, it's because there's, maybe some sort of like significant changes between the first and the second, and the third tries to wrap it all together. That's what I tried to do with mine, with the fourth movement, to just wrap it all together. But yeah, generally speaking, that was just like it was an idea that I had as I was writing it. I was like, oh, this definitely sounds very different from the first one. Me talking about the memory that I have being in the back seat of my mom's car. It's very different from the first one. The thing that's related to them is the idea of the pigeon, or invoking the pigeon, right? And then traveling, so like being in the car, right? Whereas the first one is about being on the 110 freeway, being in traffic. Gustavo?
Well, I was just going to say that it's really sad. But I guess that's kind of obvious when we're talking about, when you, or I'll just say we, are talking about, that asphalt haven that couldn't care less about people like us. Kind of like I put it. But, and then also, when you keep on saying like, so and you, and then you said and then with you, you ended that with, and then like you, ended with like, you never ended it, of course, with you ended it with like, about, not you. So it seems to me that what you're trying to say is you really don't matter, because you never ended with you. You don't start with you. You start with like, and you end with like or about. I think that's kind of what you just said. They couldn't care less about it. But anyway, that's kind of sad. Reminds me of my last poem there, but how loud.
Yeah. That was not a conscious thing.
Oh.
Just so you guys kind of know.
Yeah, I think you put it in the right words. But I was trying to figure out with something with that end. It's kind of like the you. It's not important at the end. Kind of. Since you play with the title, with like the parentheses with like like immigration as I am migration. What if you, would it make any difference, or maybe in a way to connect it, like the movements, if you were to title, I don't know, migration 1, migration 2, migration.
Oh, that works.
Would that
That's a good
make
idea.
any,
Like that.
I don't know, maybe in a way, so I guess, the first time reader would kind of like find that connection easier.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
some
that's a good idea. You can try
I mean,
that.
so that we continue to remember the word immigration, migration.
Migration 1,
Oh,
Which is only
migration
one.
2. Yeah. Or something else. Because I was thinking, it's one time I kind of ran into something consistent. I was just writing some trippy dreams, and then I was just like, people are not gonna understand this. And then I just put like dream 1, dream 2, dream 3, only to like 1. And that's what I was thinking about that right now. I was like, oh, that's what they call the movements.
Yeah.
The first time I hear it.
Yeah. But that's a great idea, actually. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Call it migration 1, migration 2.
Yeah,
That
I
way
love
makes
that.
more sense.
To me, remember I said it was pretty deep, and I needed to read through it again. And but once I did read it, as people were explaining things and asking questions, and I was rereading it, when I got to that fourth movement, I was gonna say stanza, but movement as well. It became really clear. It is clear because you mentioned like two different doves or two different pigeons, Los Palomos, and then you said, you know, so one's going home. I mean, one's something like calling toward the south, and then the other one's the second generation. So and because of the title being I'm Migration and Immigration, I might be kind of saying it right, if there is, but so you know, second generation. So some of us might be second generation immigrants maybe, but and then you know, they're both going different ways, but then and looking for a new home, and then but you know, again, this home doesn't really care about them. But so I mean, it kind of made it clear, but I had to like read through it, kind of stop and think. So, but I think it was actually pretty. I mean, I guess poems are always open to any interpretation, right? And but to me, it became pretty clear. If that means.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes, Karen.
And this is not really useful comment, but I just know that I've had that same thought. Well, when I was, I guess, young and I found out that a pigeon was just a dove. Not just a dove, but a pigeon was a dove, and I was like, what the heck? And I just remember the shock of like, how could this possibly be? Like, they're so diametrically, there are these kind of data blue eyes. Yeah. And I don't know if this is what you meant. For some reason in the fourth thing, I thought of the homing vision. I don't know, that's like, whatever that.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I was in my research, right? I mean, I saw right that pigeons, and I've known pigeons are used as couriers and messengers, you know, that type of thing. But and I was actually listening to songs that have pigeons in the title in Spanish. So, and I listened to Cucurucucu Paloma. I listened to Cuando Muere Un Palomo by Juan Gabriel. I listened to Paloma Envenenada. So like there's all of these songs in Spanish and old like rancheras that are about pigeons. But it's really actually about doves, you know. So the paloma is really meant to invoke the idea of a dove and not a pigeon, although they're one and the same.
The white bird.
The white one, right? Una paloma. Right.
And you saw Purple Rain, not a dove.
And I watched, I watched
Dove Cry.
When doves cry. So, you know, like there's definitely been pigeons in on my mind for a few days now. And just how we are pigeons. Yes, ma'am?
I guess just, I feel like movement 3 would be like so much more can come out of that. So I feel like that theme itself, you can write so much more. All the research that you did, I think, benefits from maybe expanding on that a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone's feedback. I'll make sure you guys have time to give each other feedback too. But, so if you did bring something, let's definitely take advantage of the time. And I guess the only one thing before Abraham cuts the recording is your homework this week is to basically try to do a poem in movements. So being that we have two weeks worth now of examples of me using movements in my poems, I'm encouraging you to consider using movements in yours. So kind of like what you were already talking about, Jen.
There's one really cool thing. It's short and inspirational, I think, maybe. Is that about the pigeons?
About the pigeons?
Yeah.
Well, if it's...
Or no.